Hey everyone, Michael Anthony here. Van Halen, Chickenfoot, Sammy in the Circle. But anyway, you're listening to the only podcast that is dedicated to breaking down the entire Van Halen catalog one track at a time. And the podcast will rock. Ow!
Hello, baby!
Welcome, all you rockers, rockettes, and everything in between. This is another installment of And the Podcast Will Rock. We are the show that dives into the catalog, the discography of one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time, Van Halen. You know how it works if you've tuned in before. If you don't, welcome. I am one of your co-hosts, Mark Kameyer. With me, as always, Corey Morissette. Corey, how you feeling, bud?
Never better. Never better. I've been looking forward to this show for so long. We got a great guest on tonight. I'm coming off a high. I just saw ZZ Top and Cheap Trick in concert for the first time. They put on a tremendous show. Cheap Trick played that 70s song from that 70s show, and they did She's Tight. They mix up their set list every night. It was a great set list. And to come off that high, to come in here tonight, our 25th show, Michael Anthony recorded a little something for our intro, and our guest tonight is top notch.
Oh yes, that's right. Wait, let's not bury the lead too hard there. Did you just say the Michael Anthony recorded something for us?
He did. He promised he would check out the show and record a little intro for us. So thank you very much, Mr. Anthony, if you're listening. Yes. We are tremendous fans of yours, and convince Sammy to bring Sammy in the Circle up to Canada, because I would love to see a Sammy show.
I mean, before you head up to the Great White North, swing by Nashville, because I can honestly say that I would be thrilled to see Sammy perform live. I would be honored just to tell him that I think so. I'm like, hey, by the way, I think you are the better vocalist, for what it's worth. But I'm not trying to start any sort of fights. I'm not trying to start anything here, because look, we're here to celebrate all of Van Halen, all of it, even the ones we might not be so incredibly keen on. If you tuned in with the show last week, you know that the last song we talked about was not our favorite. It was certainly not the one that I'm going to remember for days to come. Not going to show my potential future children. Well, actually, that's not true. I probably will, just to say, like, well, you see, we all go through phases, kids. We all go through phases. We all have to try different artistic endeavors. So more power to them. And even though it wasn't what the dreams were made of for us last week, it was still Van Halen. And we have to appreciate that. We have to celebrate that. It's what it's all about. I mean, that's why we're here. Am I right?
You're absolutely right. But what do you say? We finally introduce our guest here tonight. He is a podcaster in his own right. He's a former radio personality. You might know him from his great articles on the Van Halen News Desk and from his fantastic podcast, Booked on Rock. It's Mr. Eric Senich. Eric, thank you very much for joining us here tonight.
Mark and Corey, how you guys doing? Thanks so much for having me on, man. This is great.
It's our absolute pleasure. And it wasn't that long ago when I was sitting in my easy chair and my Twitter blew up because somebody posted an article on Van Halen News Desk about our dumb little show. And it just exploded. And next thing you know, we're on the Apple charts. We're in the top 5 in America and top 20 in North America. We couldn't believe it. And it's all thanks to you. So thank you very much for the exposure.
Oh, no, listen, my pleasure, man. I'm a podcaster, as you said. So I always love to help out my fellow podcasters. But it's also about Van Halen, and it's great. It's such a fun podcast. And so it really was, it was my pleasure. So I'm glad. It was great to hear that. You've got a lot of subscribers and listeners. So that was very cool.
Absolutely.
Would it be safe enough to say, Eric, that when it comes to the music of Van Halen, when it comes to sort of behind the scenes even, would you say you're a Van Halen expert? Because we get a lot of flack on this show, Corey and I, because
hear.
We're not experts and we're not rock historians. And what the hell are we even talking about? These two dumb guys who don't even know the band, as people like to say, because we're not experts. But how about you? Are you the expert? Because if you are, then maybe now we get some credibility with some of these people.
I can't speak for I let other people decide that. I'm going to tell you this. Greg Renoff is the Van Halen historian. Okay. I love that. Somehow that name caught for Greg because, he's got 2 great books. You guys know about the books.
Oh yeah.
Van Halen Rising, and he did the book with Ted Templeman. But expert, boy, I don't know. Listen, I just love the band. I have followed the band since Christmas Eve of 1988. I always tell this story. And, I've read everything I could possibly read on the band. I listen to the music constantly, and anything that I could find out about the band, I'm all in. So I guess, I write for the Van Halen News Desk. It's pretty much daily. My job is to look for Van Halen stuff. So I don't know. I don't know if I feel comfortable calling myself a Van Halen expert, but we'll let the people decide. But no, I did hear you guys talking about the criticisms, and I was surprised by that because this is an opinion-based podcast. One, so I didn't really. It wasn't like I was ever picking up and hey, they got that wrong. Although I will say, Corey, in your intro, if you could just change it to one of the greatest bands of all time to that's my only gripe.
Gotcha. Yeah, you bet.
But anyway, so, but yeah, it's an opinion-based podcast and it's about Van Halen. That's all that matters. So it's fun. It's supposed to
Thank you. I'm glad somebody said it.
Yeah. So there's some great podcasts out there along with yours. You got Dave and Dave, you got the DLR cast, my friends over there. Darren Pelchowitz and Steve Roth. And who else do we have? We have some other, Dweezil Zappa's podcast is outstanding. You've running with the Dweezil?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've heard a couple of those. Yeah, absolutely.
So any podcast that celebrates the legacy of Van Halen is good in my books. And I love it, man. You guys pick a song and you guys got a long way to go.
That's right. We got
a lot of songs.
96 songs left on the wheel. And I keep threatening Mark that I'm going to eventually break out a solo wheel that has like Sammy solo tracks, David Lee Roth solo tracks, maybe some extreme. I want to get some Wolfie on there because we both love Mammoth.
Oh, yeah.
Mammoth WVH is fantastic. That's probably my favorite album in the last 5 years.
Yes. By the way, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm not afraid of that potential wheel, except for maybe a few potential songs that might come up that I'm like, I don't really want to hear those, but it's fine. It's all good. But go ahead, Eric.
No, well, 2 things. So Corey, it would be great if Sammy and the Circle come to Canada, but he is coming around my way. I'm going to see him here in Connecticut, June 10th.
Oh, nice.
Bridgeport, Connecticut. So I'm looking forward to that. And Wolfie was in New Haven recently.
Oh.
And I might have to bust out my Sammy. New Halen. This is now New Halen. And I annoy all my friends with that. Okay. In Connecticut, we have East Haven, West Haven, North Haven. And so somebody will just say, oh, hey, I was the other night, I was in North Halen. And then they look at me like, Jesus Christ, shut the fuck up. But anyway, so.
And I hear that and I think it must be nice to live in a place where bands come. Like I know I just had ZZ Top and Cheap Trick and Alice Cooper a couple of weeks ago, but Van Halen hardly ever came here. And I remember it was on the Tokyo Dome. They were promoting that live record live at the Tokyo Dome, and they were going to play Saskatchewan. And then they ended up, before they even announced the tour, they ended up canceling the whole, because I had a friend in radio at the time. He's like, you're going to want to, in 2 weeks, they're announcing a tour here and they're going to play Saskatchewan. I was so excited. And then it ended up not happening. And then, of course, they never toured again. So I never, ever got an opportunity to see Van Halen.
No, that sucks, man. And I know, Corey, you said you never had a chance to see him, right?
Yeah, that's true. And Mark never had.
I'm sorry, Corey. No. Mark, you never had a chance to see him?
No, never did. I'm sure that they came to Nashville probably quite a few times in my time, but also just the opportunity never came about to go see them. So it just, never seemed to happen. And sadly, it won't.
Yeah. I mean, there was nothing like a Van Halen concert. Absolutely nothing like it, especially like the opening 10 seconds, whatever, when the lights go down and you hear the Alex and Eddie kicks in with a guitar, and it's just fucking adrenaline, man. I mean, there's something addictive about that sound of Van Halen that it's just this, you can't even put into words, there's something about it. But there was a great show in Toronto, Corey, that was from 95. You've seen that one. It's on YouTube.
Yeah. I've tried to catch as many concerts on YouTube as I could.
Yeah, that's a great show. And by the way, there's a great interview, another podcast that I forgot to mention, Johnny Bean TV. You guys watch Johnny Beans? Yeah.
No, I don't know that one.
Okay. Yeah. Check that out. Cause he had a guitarist who knew Ed for a long time, Craig Parker Adams. And that one of the things he was talking about, I did put up an article on it. You can see it. It's called Guitarist Craig Parker Adams on Following in Eddie Van Halen's Footsteps, literally. And what the headline means is he would when he got to see Van Halen, he had like front row seats, and he was watching Eddie's feet, and his body, the way it moved, and just like the electricity, that came from Eddie's movements. But what he was talking about was like that. Like, how do you define the magic of Eddie's sound, or even just the Van Halen sound? You can't put into words. It's something, if you're a fan, like I am, and I think you guys are, there's something just addictive about Eddie's sound. And you just keep coming back to it time and time again, which is, they say legends never die. So in a sense, Ed will never die. I mean, he's just like Hendrix, and he's physically not here. And for those that knew him personally, that's you can't replace that. But his legacy, man, is set. But that's why it's so important for podcasts like yours, and for Jeff Hausman running the Van Halen News Desk. And he's been he had the Inside magazine prior to the website, and it's just now more than ever because Eddie's gone. It's really, the fans, we got to work hard to keep that legacy going, man. Just tell your friends, family members, kids coming up, you got to listen to this. Like exactly. when Eddie died that night, I was downtown in my hometown here, and there was a kid who looked like 13, 14 years old. He was riding around on his bike, just chilling, just kind of going in circles, just killing time. But he was blasting Van Halen. And it appeared to me as if he maybe knew about Van Halen, or maybe not at all, but just because Eddie passed, he was giving him a listen, That's great. And I thought that was cool, man.
Yeah,
I just
thought that
was so cool. Yeah. So that's what you hope is just because we talk about Beethoven and Mozart now. That's what, 100 years from now, when we're gone, I would think they're going to be talking about Eddie, but
as long as rock music still exists or is still alive in whatever form or fashion, I have to believe that the name Eddie Van Halen, especially when the talk of guitar playing comes about, that his name will be not even whispered or murmured, but talked about and, passed around like, oh, so do you know Eddie Van Halen? You got to listen to this guy. Listen to what this guy used to do back in the day. Like, listen to all this and how he influenced everything you probably listen to right now, like even if it's subconsciously. But you're right, though. It's the sound of Eddie is what keeps us coming back. It's why we do this show. I mean, it's a band effort to be certain, but it's Eddie Van Halen. It's his sound. It's his tone.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the rest of the ingredients get put into it to make it what it became. But that was the other thing I was going to mention, though, real quick. So the other thing that I was going to mention is when Eddie was going through that tough period there, even Valerie said, it was hard to see him treating the people that he loved. He wasn't the same, he's just kind of mean spirited, and just, he wasn't. Drugs does that to you. Mm-hmm. It takes the best person and turns them into somebody they're not. And she was talking about how it was just great that he was able to come through that period. And then before he passed, he was able to make amends with a lot of those people. And he was doing that with Sammy, and he was about to do that with Michael Anthony. And because there are people that I've talked to myself that knew Eddie, or you read interviews or you see him on YouTube and et cetera. And they just talk about like what a genuinely nice, caring, just a sweetheart of a guy he was. Like he would ask people like, how was your day? You know, what's up with you? You know, I think he struggled with that. He was just a regular dude in his mind. He knew he was a famous, in other people's eyes, a famous rock god. You know, he wasn't comfortable with that. But there are people that said, you know, when he would be out on the street and a fan would come up to him and they would just be like, the jaw dropped and like, holy shit, it's Eddie, you know, and he would just stand there and wait. And just, you know, when they calmed down, he'd not just shake their hand, he'd hug them. You know, that was just so cool. And then he would just try to calm the guy down because they're freaking out. And he's just like, come on, you know.
And even when he was going through his troubles in 2004, like my buddy Michael, who met him backstage before the concert, and he really had to take a piss and all, but he was still, you know, hey, it's damn glad to meet you. Like, you know, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And even in that, when he was going at his darkest time, perhaps he was still that just loving, caring individual. And it's just wonderful to hear stories like that. Yeah.
It was a bizarre time when the 98 Van Halen 3 album didn't do good. And then he hit that dark period, and it was so different because when I was a teenager, the image of Eddie was that smile, just lovable guy who just wanted to play. And then the front man, you know, whether it be Sammy or Dave, you got the shirt with him smiling there. And, you know, and he would just kind of sit back and just kind of almost like, you know, especially during the Dave years, just shake his head like, what's he fucking doing, you know? But he just, you know, I was just like, whatever, you know, like I remember one time he says, I don't even know what Dave's singing about half the time with his lyrics, you know, it's just, he just wanted to play. So, you know, and that was his image, just a lovable guy. And just, hey, you know, and then all of a sudden it changed. And then a lot of fingers were pointed his way. It's his fault. You know, he's the reason why the band, is where it's at and why nothing's happening. And, you know, if only people knew, like a lot of that was like, he was just struggling big time with the cancer. And a lot of people were like, where's the new album? What's he doing? But there's people that knew him pretty well that, I think it was Chris Gill, when I interviewed Chris Gill and Brad Talinsky, who have a great book, Conversations with Eddie Van Halen is the book. He was hit pretty hard by the Van Halen 3 criticisms. And he was kind of bummed by that because that was an album he really wanted to make. He was really proud of. It was something he wanted to do. And he took a while for him to bounce back from that. And then you get into the 2000s with all the file sharing and stuff. And I think he just felt like, why bother? But the only reason he came back is because of Wolfgang. You know? And
you know what? They put out one of their best albums.
A Different Kind of Truth, right?
Oh, God, yeah. Like one of the things, both Mark and I coming into this, not historians or anything, that's an album that we both kind of alluded. I knew the kind of the big tracks off of it and thought they were great and all, but digging deeper into that album is absolutely fantastic. Like that album, top to bottom, is one of their absolute best.
Absolutely. And some of the songs that, I always thought that Blood and Fire would have been the perfect lead single.
Oh, yeah.
Blood and Fire, Dave's singing about all that stuff that they went through to get where they were at that time. And it's a great song too. And I love Dave's line, I told you I'd be back. Right. I love
now, we have the unofficial Van Halen expert on here. We got to ask about the song Chinatown, because Mark speculated that maybe David Lee Roth was watching Big Trouble in Little China when he went and wrote the lyrics for that one. Do you know what Chinatown's about?
Chinatown. No, I don't. Let me think now. Chinatown. What's oh boy, I'm trying to think. There's a lyric. What is it? Headless body in a topless bar, right? That's from Chinatown, isn't it?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yep. And that's from an actual New York newspaper headline. You got that. Yep. But Chinatown, I would think, but I don't know this for sure, but this is, I think, his connection to while he lived in New York City. But yeah, I don't know if there's much on that song as far as, headless body and topless bar, warring clans and lowered cars. That's the lead lyric.
Yeah.
And Dave would do a lot of that stuff. He would read a headline or he'd overhear somebody say something and he would jot it down, still does, jots it down and says, there's a lyric,
I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of Dave's lyrics. You got to kind of read in between. So you got to decode it.
Decode it the best you possibly can. And then sometimes you're off the mark. I was so sure he was inspired by Big Trouble in Little China. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it could be LA. Well, no, who knows? Right. But it could be, it could refer to Los Angeles too. I mean, there is a district in Los Angeles, Chinatown.
It's true. Yeah.
But
it's just one of my favorites from A Different Kind of Truth.
It's a good one. Yeah.
It's got that opening with Eddie and Wolf together simultaneously, which, by the way, was something that Eddie had done to open Hot for Teacher in the studio with himself playing bass and guitar at the same time. And that might be in the 5150 vaults somewhere.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. But you got to decode Dave's lyrics like you have to decode his quote that he gave to us.
Yes. Let's talk about that. I've been diving into this. We talked about, and this was big news a couple of weeks ago. We've alluded to it a couple of times on the show, but Jason Newsted kind of dropped a bombshell that he was talking to Alex Van Halen about some sort of a tour. Not necessarily Van Halen, because Wolfgang is, and everybody agrees Van Halen kind of died with Eddie. But some way to maybe honor the legacy of Eddie Van Halen, going on the road with Alex and maybe David Lee Roth. And David Lee Roth said, you got to throw Pink in there. That was interesting. But Joe Satriani, maybe Steve Lukather from Toto, kind of a huge bombshell to just drop. I wanted to get your thoughts, Eric, on what you think about that whole situation.
Well, yeah, the Pink thing is tongue in cheek. That's Dave being tongue in cheek. But yeah, it's what Joe Satriani said. These types of things go on behind the scenes a lot, and they're kept secret for a reason, because they may not lead to anything. And so it's kind of that, it's the code of musicians, like, don't talk about that because it might not happen. And so Jason Newsted, when he said that, actually we didn't run with that right away, because again, it could just be nothing. It may lead to nothing. But when Satriani then followed with his comments on that podcast, and I apologize to the person who was that podcast. We want to give him credit. If we could look it up. But when Joe Satriani commented on it and said, yeah, we've been talking. So that's when I called Jeff Hausman, and I said, well, we got to do something. So we discussed it, and he was, he reached out and got the quote from Dave, and then it blew up even more. But it's just like Satriani said, this may not amount to anything. It's not a reunion,
right?
It's a tribute, whether it be a full tour or a series of shows. Who knows? But I think it was just one of those things, Alex probably was just reaching out to people he knew. And because of COVID, they never had that real closure. They weren't able to do anything. They couldn't play a show or have a tribute concert or anything. So I think Alex was probably playing around with that idea, but Newsted, he was pissed off at that reporter, but she was just doing her job. She just asked him questions and he answered the questions. And when he drops that bomb, it's like,
you can't not go after it. Yeah, exactly. But,
and also the headline of that article, the Florida newspaper didn't even mention anything about Van Halen, the headline. So it was all the other outlets that had run with it. And so I don't think it was fair to throw her under the bus. He actually disinvited her to the show, Jason Newsted.
Bitter.
The reporter.
I don't get that.
And he's like, I'm never doing an interview again. But I don't think you have to do that, because Jason Newsted, from by all accounts, is a really cool guy. Yeah. It's just, you just why not just say, he was asked about, has he, either he brought it up or the reporter said, have you been asked to be part of any projects, over the years? Oh yeah, I have. And he didn't have to say the names. He could have just said, yeah, I have. And I really can't say who. But he did, and Yeah, it was all the other outlets that really just ran with it. I wouldn't want to be on the other end of that phone call with Alex.
No kidding.
I wouldn't want,
Yeah.
But Satriani, he was great about it. He was very classy about it and just said, we'll see. Yeah. So there's no guarantee of anything like that happening. A lot of those things just, it would be great. Now, I would love to see a tribute. Okay. But the idea of Wolfgang being part of this reunion, it ain't happening. Mm-hmm. For the people that haven't heard him say it like 100 times, he's not going to do that. He's got his own thing, and his father wouldn't ever want him to just step into his shoes and replace him on guitar. I mean, if anything, maybe he would show up for a tribute. If there is a tribute tour, he would maybe show up or something. But yeah, I mean, Dave's quote is basically, here, the other thing is, hopefully what's going on with Dave, because he had said, I'm retiring. My last shows, were to be around New Year's, and then those were canceled because of COVID. So was this plan in place before he announced his retirement? Hopefully Dave's okay. There's all this talk about, is he okay physically? Because that audio message he put out there was kind of, a little dark, Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is he okay? So I just hope Dave's okay. And if it were to happen, Dave's saying basically in the era of COVID, if this were to happen, you'd need 3 people for every role in the band. And I think he was just basically trying to say, look, if this is going to happen, you're going to have multiple players to make this happen. You're going to have some people that are you're going to have interchangeable parts. And, if it does happen, we'll see.
I mean, that's a smart way to go about it, just in case, things do happen. And, let's face it, the remaining members are not spring chickens themselves. And, anything could happen. He could get whacked in the head again with a microphone or something and just be bleeding profusely. And is like, sorry, I can't finish the show. Well, here's my understudy. And then, it's somebody famous. Something like that. That would be cool to see, though. I would be very, very excited to see some sort of tribute show with members of the band from prior years or what have you. Come on in and do a new set, or not a new set, but a set full of classic tunes that we all know and love. It would be a fun time. It would be a really fun time. But you know what's even more of a fun time? Our show where we spin the wheel and pick a song. Corey,
oh baby,
Corey, I think it's time. I think it's time to spin this wheel. And I mean, I'm angry at this wheel for what it did to us last week.
Oh, yeah,
and she knows it. So I don't have a lot of high hopes. Normally on the show, Eric, what we do, I try to ask Corey if there's a song or if there's a particular album from the band that he wants to manifest and bring forth that the wheel might, bestow upon us. I'm going to withdraw my manifestation because I don't think it's going to come to fruition, and I'm bitter at the wheel. But Eric, I'll ask you, since you're our guest, is there a particular Van Halen song that you wish to hear, that you wish to see the wheel spin for you? Or is it, in a broader sense, is there a particular album you'd like to hear a song from?
I knew you were going to ask me this.
It's what I do.
Damn you. All right. Well, I mean, I to be fair, I think, do I have to pick one song or one album, or can I just say one Sammy song and one Dave song? Or
you can do a Sammy and a Dave song.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you guys already did the song, the Sammy era song that I would have loved to talk about, Judgment Day. So Judgment Day, and you guys had an episode on that, was episode 22. Kelsey was a guest. By the way, you guys have had great guests, man.
Hey,
we do. We've been lucky.
Yeah.
Kelsey just, we thought, how cool would it be to get because we're both like old men listening to Van Halen. She's a very young woman. I thought it'd be really cool to get her perspective, because she's a huge Van Halen fan. And obviously she missed a lot of this stuff because she's very, very young. And she gave a great perspective, I thought, on that song.
Oh, she's straight legit fan. But by the end of that episode, it was cool because at the beginning, I can't remember who was like, I never really liked that song. And then by the end, it was like, you know what, this is a great song. And that song, it was a good song when it came out in 91, became great as the years went on. And now I can't stop. I've listened to it like 10 times within the last few weeks after that episode. But that's already been taken. So I would say, and you guys can tell me if these ones are taken, but I guess Dave era. Oh boy. It'd have to be something from, oh no, I know what it would be. I would say I would go with, have you done Light Up the Sky yet?
No. And actually, we almost hit it last week.
Okay.
It was the song on the wheel right before
yeah.
How Many Say I, so we almost hit it.
Okay. Light Up the Sky from the Dave era, I think. And then for the Sammy era, I would say, since Judgment Day was already done, I gotta say Cabo Wabo.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You haven't done it yet? No,
we haven't yet, but we that was another one that we almost maybe got.
Yep. Very close.
Like Romeo Delight is another Dave era one I love.
Oh, it's great.
I mean, of course, the hits, the non-hits I love talking about, the ones that weren't all over the radio, Yeah, so let's see what we get. And by the way, listeners, this is legitimately like the guest doesn't find out until they're on. Because I thought it'd be like the old school like Tonight Show with Johnny Carson days where like you had the questions ahead of time and then you pretended like you didn't know the question was coming.
Yeah,
I have no idea what you guys are picking. So
we had to tweet out the wheel spin like every time we do an episode. We tweet out the wheel because people still don't believe that we spin this wheel and just go.
Yeah,
I didn't believe it was a wheel.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, there's no wheel. They're like, no, there's legit a wheel.
There's a legitimate wheel. Props to Greg DiPasquale. DiPasquale. Is it DiPasquale?
DiPasquale.
DiPasquale. Greg, you had, that was a tough pick with How Many Say I. I dodged a bullet there. So Greg, my condolences, but he wants to come back on again. He should.
We owe it to him.
He should. We definitely owe him. He was a trooper for that episode, even though he was not keen on that song either. No. But Corey, I'll ask you, do you have a song or an album you want to manifest tonight?
After we've been talking about a different kind of truth, like Blood and Fire, we haven't done. If we spun that tonight, oh, that'd be amazing. And for a Sammy tune, I'm still in that For Unlawful kind of mood. And I would love me some Runaround tonight. If we spun that one, love that track.
Careful what you wish for, because there's some For Unlawful stuff you don't like, and the wheel is being fickle. So just saying.
All right.
But
I got the wheel right in front of me, and very impressive. You got the wheel in Eddie's red, black, and white colors.
Of course. Yeah.
Got to keep it on brand.
And not have the colors, right?
Oh my gosh.
All right. I'm going to shuffle it a couple times. Just to make sure we're on the up and up. What do you say, Mark? Should we give it a spin?
Let's hear it for the boy.
Here we go.
Here we go. We're coming up. Oh my God. It's one you picked.
Oh, get out.
Cabo Wabo for Bo U812. Nice.
I swear to you, to everybody listening, I did not fix this. This is not fixed.
Oh, that's amazing. You managed the exact
That's incredible. I'm so excited.
Fantastic. Maybe tell us a little bit about Cabo Wabo, since you know much more about Van Halen than we do, Eric.
Yeah. Sammy wrote this when they just purchased in Cabo San Lucas. It was like a dead town, like nothing. It was just a ghost town, and he decided that with the guys in the band, they wanted to start a club there, and because Sammy had been there before, and he loved the area, and so one day he saw this guy. He was drunk walking down the street, and he was just couldn't keep his balance, and he said to I believe he said to, it might have been his now wife Kari or somebody, look at that guy, he's doing the Cabo Wabo, because he had been drinking some of that tequila. And so that's where the song came up. And Eddie had the music, and I believe that Eddie played the music for Sammy over the phone, I want to say, and Sammy came up with the lyrics and all that. So here come the emails. No, but yeah, that was it. Yeah, it was just Sammy noticed that, and off they went, man. And this is such a great, what's the length of this song? It's a pretty long Sammy era song, isn't it? This one clocks in at what?
Let's bring it up here real quick.
I think
7 minutes, actually. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yep. Yeah. And this is that Sammy era groove. A lot of these songs have a groove to them during the Sammy era that is really cool. And this is you could hear that this is the influence, the Eric Clapton Cream era influence. I think you can hear on this with Eddie, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a live favorite back in '88, right? They played it for most of that tour, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I love OU812. I know a lot of people don't like it. I know the production is always taking a lot of hit. People want to see it remixed, remastered.
Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely the case. I agree with that. But I love the variety on the album. It's right around the time I became a fan too. So a little bit of a personal connection to it, but it's a great album, man.
Oh, totally. We did AFU on an episode in
yes, that's right. That was recently. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Great tune.
One of my favorite songs from the Van Halen catalog comes from this album. So, and we haven't hit it yet. I'm looking forward to that day, but
are you going to tell us what it is?
Finish what you started.
Oh, there you go. The best song about blue balls ever written.
Yeah.
Also, yes. But yeah, it's Cabo Wabo. This Eric brought it into existence. Here it is.
Am I the first that's ever had a request come to fruition?
We had
Mark's girlfriend manifested an album, but not.
Yeah, she manifested the album. So that was the one other time where we got close to a full manifestation. But you are the first to literally call out the song, and here it is.
You know, we're recording this on May 4th. The Van Halen force is very strong with Eric Senich.
May the 4th be with you.
He manifested the exact song he wanted. That is amazing.
And happy birthday, Alex. His birthday's coming up.
Oh,
hello. Yeah.
Hey, Alex.
All
right, awesome. Boys. What do you say? Should we spin Cabo Wabo from OU812?
Grab yourself a shot of tequila, your best tequila, Cabo Wabo, if you have it, and join us on this journey. Yes, Corey, let's start the song.
Oh my God. Like you talked about the production, Eric, on this album. That sounds fucking fantastic.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby. You guys know the Montrose song, Make It Last?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because that's the influence musically on this one.
Right, Sammy a little bit of a melody in there, right?
Right. Sammy was telling Eddie, think about Montrose, Make It Last. And Eddie loved Montrose. He loved Ronnie Montrose's sound. And that's where, listen to those two songs and you hear where it comes from. So yeah, man, what a tone on the guitar. Beautiful.
I love Sammy's got a shitload of reverb on his mic on this, like sort of as if he's singing in an empty arena or something like that. Yeah. Just sort of announcing like, here's the song, here it's coming at you, baby. I love that.
Magical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you hear Alex coming in.
Yeah.
And I never get tired of just that Ed and Al chemistry, two brothers who've just been playing together for just endlessly, day after day, night after night for years. It's like they just shared the same musical brain, and it's just so cool.
It's a musical symbiosis. It happens, especially when you're just really clicking with one or two or however many individuals. And it's why so many bands have longevity. It's because everyone involved in the band is feeling it. They're all thinking the same thing. They're going for the same goal. It's rare these days to get a full symbiotic musical relationships, I think. But the ones that have made it last have that down to just a science.
Yeah. This is the way they play off of each other, that jazz background that they got from their dad too.
It also helps that they're blood brothers. So, they can also sort of.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned on the Sean Geek and Fast Fret podcast, which we haven't mentioned yet, but I love giving them a shout out because I love their show.
Those are my buddies.
I just heard your breakdown on 5150. It was amazing. But you talked about how Alex losing a brother was akin to losing a limb. And it's very, very true, right? And they were just so lockstep with each other for so long that it's amazing. Listen to Jump, the solo in Jump, and listen to what Alex is doing there. The interplay, he gives Eddie some breathing room to play. And sometimes when Ed's speeding up and Alex slows down and vice versa, and just, oh my God, they just knew each other. So just like I said, they're just sharing the same musical brain. It's just so cool. So cool. I love in the US Festival when, let's see, what song would it be? I think it was, kind of trying to remember. They go into a jam. Okay. So it's just Ed and Al, and they're just fucking around, and Ed just going, and Alex is just trying to match, and and they go back and forth, and it's just, they're in the zone. It's like nobody else is there, There's like 300,000 people watching.
That's
That's fantastic. Yeah. All right, let's keep it rocking.
Anyway, yes.
There's a sleepy town south of the border. You go there once, you be there twice. Lots of pretty girls coming by the dozen. The white sands all make a town look nice.
I tell you,
there's the harmonies.
Oh, it's fantastic. I've been ragging a little bit on Sammy lyrics because some of the songs we've done lately, and I'm a big Sammy fan, but his lyrics, I don't think have been up to snuff with David Lee Roth, but there's some great lines in here, right? Like, if you go there once, you'll be there twice. Lots of pretty girls coming by the dozens. The white sand sure makes a tan look nice. That's some fantastic lyric writing.
Yeah. Sammy takes a lot of hits lyrically. Yeah.
I don't agree with that sentiment, but it's, I digress, but no, you're right. These are great lines, and he's painting you a word portrait right off the bat so that exactly. He's setting the tone, he's setting the mood for what this song ultimately is. And look, you can't have a song that's essentially about well, you can't name a tequila after the song that is essentially about a tropical adventure, so to speak. You know what I mean? Even though it's not full on tropical adventure, it's just it's reminiscent. He's trying to give you the idea of, it's like, look, this is what happens when you party too hard sometimes.
Yeah, you end up hammered at 4 a.m. That's what it was. It was
Haven't 4
we
all been there?
Yeah. Well, maybe. No comment.
Yeah, there you go.
No. But yeah, that was where it was like 4 a.m. The guy's like, he's like falling into a barbed wire fence or something like that. I mean, yeah, just hammered out of his mind, which every October when Sammy has that party there are quite a few, I'm sure, doing the Cabo Wabo.
Absolutely.
We crash on the beach. You know I wanna make love in the sea. We got to try a little dance. So Cabo Wabo. It's alright, baby. Come on, let me take you down. I will show you all around. Down in Cabo, let me take you down. Face down in Cabo, kissing the ground.
All right, Mark, you're just grooving out there, buddy. What do you think?
I am. And look, right there, he tells you, let me take you down, face down in Cabo, kissing the ground. It's like, yeah, let's party until you just are partied out and you're just face down on the pavement like this dude who I wrote this song about. And also my question is, he says, we got to try a little dance. So Cabo Wabo, it's all right by me. What do you imagine the Cabo Wabo dance move would be? Although I guess the precursor to this is, hey, he wants to fuck in the beach or in the ocean. So I guess doing the Cabo Wabo is a euphemism.
Wow, look at that. We're getting deep here. We're getting real deep. Never thought about that. I think, geez, yeah, I wonder. I just took it as some guy getting so hammered he just passes out on the beach. That's what I was thinking.
You know, and if it was David Lee Roth, I guarantee it'd be about fucking somewhere. But Sammy is not immune from talking about fucking either. So
No.
yeah, Dave would have his toes in the sand, and Sammy would have his face in the sand.
that's right.
With his hand firmly grasping the bottle.
Right. Sammy says it fits paradise to a T. Dave says it's just like paradise. You know.
There it is.
There you go. All right, let's keep going.
All right.
Lands in, you have to see it. Ain't no picture of the same way.
There's Mikey.
Yeah.
Walking the streets doing that old the Cabo Wabo. Place come alive every night. Yeah! I wanna crash on the beach. You know I wanna make love in the sea.
Mark, you just talked about Sammy wanted to make love in the sea. There you go.
There you go.
I take it back. The old Cabo Wabo is not a euphemism. It's just straight up what it is. It's just like, let's get like toasted until we just we can't really walk anymore. We're basically doing like a weird dancing trudge because we're just so far gone.
Now,
But-
is he going to make love in the sea with somebody he's going to wake up the next morning and say, "Who the fuck is this? I don't know who you are." Is he
I
that
feel
drunk on Cabo?
guaranteed.
If you crash on the beach and then have a night of lovemaking, chances are and you're doing the Cabo Wabo to get to it, the chances are you're not remembering shit. You're definitely not remembering who was hopefully the willing participant.
Yeah.
In
If
this
it was a good
activity.
night. Yeah, absolutely. By the way, we haven't mentioned the harmonies. Oh my God.
I mean, oof.
Beautiful.
And that's Ed and Mike. Mike's in there with Sammy, but that,
Yeah.
that's
Mike's
Magic
way
of
up there.
yeah.
It's the magic of Van Halen. He,
Fucking love it.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm using the F word way too much here. I'm sorry. This
go
is
right the fuck ahead. We're
This is not PG Van Halen podcast.
Yeah. Come on. No, but those harmonies, man.
Uh-huh.
Holy shit.
yeah.
I just can't get enough of it. And the other thing is, by the way, that I love Alex's work on the hi-hat and the cymbals and his snare sound. That's another thing that was brought up in that podcast that I was just listening to on Johnny Bean. They were talking about his snare sound I think it was there where they talk about his snare sound is unique to the Van Halen sound. It's
It really is.
Yeah, you cannot repeat. I mean, because Eddie was just so legendary. And I know Alex gets a lot of respect, but a lot of times people forget just how damn good of a drummer he is. And
I'm
just
glad you brought that up.
little things he does here and there. Again, it's that jazzy type of stuff that he does, and then with the cymbals and all that. It's so cool.
We talked about his snare sound on the Out of Love Again because
Yes.
you know Alex doesn't get enough credit from like rock journalists who always say he's kind of a mediocre drummer. Oh, he's average compared to his brother. Fuck no, he is one of my favorite rock drummers of all time, and that snare sound, like you mentioned, is absolutely iconic and central to that Van Halen sound.
I remember when we got into the early 90s when For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge had come out. I remember hearing on the radio one time a DJ just saying, Alex just gets better with each album.
Mm-hmm.
And, you listen to Balance in 95 and the stuff he was doing there. Yeah, man. He's
part
the
of
real
this
deal.
part of this journey that we're doing with this show has helped me, and I've mentioned it before. I was kind of one of those guys in prior to thinking it was like, look, I love Van Halen. I think Alex is a fine drummer for them, but it's like I don't know if I would put him up there on some of the upper tier. But as we've done this show episode by episode and we've just analyzed the playability and just the musicianship with everything, especially with Alex too, I've completely come around on that. I was like, oh my God, no, he's subtle. That's what he is. He's doing so much by doing so little, and he's not even doing a little really. He's doing a lot. You just have to be like tuning in to hear it and to feel it. And I've completely come around at whatever I was thinking beforehand of him being kind of just an okay drummer. No, not the case. He's incredible.
Cool. I like that. I'm going to. There we go. Standing. I'm standing.
You see, you can learn something on this show, kids. It's just, even if it's just a couple of idiots just waxing poetic about a band we like.
Yeah, it's complimenting.
Yes.
Pretty much so much of it is built around Eddie. Even like Michael Anthony said, when Michael Anthony's a damn good bass player. Okay. But like he even said, when you got Eddie playing there, you don't want like all three of the musicians, jerking off on their instrument all at the same time. It's like, it's a song. Yeah. You're creating a piece of music. And so it just can't be that. So yeah, they all just fit in perfectly together. And yeah, this is an important moment. We just heard Mark say. This is where we get to the solo.
Now, Mark, I wanted to ask you, because you're a guitar player, about the guitar tone. Maybe a little different tone than we get from Eddie Van Halen from like earlier stuff, but certainly not out of place for 1988.
No, it's not. I mean, and this is just maybe because at this point I have his many different as Eddie always had a particular guitar tone, but sometimes he'd experiment and, give us a little bit of variation. So I feel like my brain at this point and my ear have become attuned to his many tones. So hearing this doesn't really throw me for a loop as far as his guitar tone goes, but it fits. I mean, whatever he decided to do, either different or whatever he's doing just the same, maybe it's just a production value difference, I'm not sure, but it fits the song, the tone he's using and the way he's playing. And I dig it a lot.
Yep.
This was Don Landy produced, correct, Eric?
Yeah, Landy was there for that one.
Okay.
And Templeman wasn't, that was, so it was.
But we talked about the production of this album. It sounds very late 1980s to me.
Yeah,
a little bit,
a product of its time.
Yeah. I always say I would love to hear this album with the production sound of Bruce Fairbairn on Balance.
There you go.
Ooh,
wouldn't that be cool?
Like Balance sounds amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be so awesome.
Here we go.
Get to that solo, baby.
I can't wait. Now,
monstrous.
I've heard you say before, Eric, there's no such thing as a bad Eddie Van Halen solo, and I agree 100%. Here we got Eddie, and he's doing his own rhythm underneath again, right? Which is something he didn't really do too much in the David Lee Roth era.
Right. I thought, I was just thinking back on that. Yeah, I mean, he was during the Sammy era, he was trying some different things. He was having a lot of fun, and plus, the 80s, like you said, there's just a whole different vibe and sound to this stuff. But that song is just unique. It doesn't sound like anything else that was out at that time. Think about what was out, Dokken and White Snake and Poison and Warrant, Rat and all those, good bands. I was fans of most or if not all, but it still sounded like Van Halen. I know people say that's two different bands with Sammy and Eddie, but that's Eddie right there. And that is that solo. And he's not going off playing a million notes to start. So that's what it took about that Clapton influence. It's just spaced out. But then at the end, he's, which is insane the way it's like his hand literally was like resting on a tabletop, but it's not. I mean, it's so steady.
Mm-hmm. But you know what was happening at the beginning of that solo when Eddie's doing those sustained notes? You got Mikey back there with the bass going.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, he goes. Yeah, you hear that a couple times. Yeah,
really fantastic stuff. Mark, you're a guitar player. I know you idolize Mr. Van Halen. Your thoughts?
I'm sorry, I'm still picking my brains up from having them melt after hearing that solo again. I mean, I've heard this solo before. This is easily of all my favorite Eddie Van Halen solos. I mean, I've already said Eruptions by default is number one, just because it's a whole track that's just nothing but a guitar solo, and it's just phenomenal. But this is easily in the top three, I would say.
Really?
I don't know if it's 2 or 3, but it's up there. Let's put it that way, because I got everything that I could ever want out of a Van Halen solo, an Eddie Van Halen solo in particular. I mentioned the dive bombs all the time. He gave us a couple of dive bombs in this. He is up and down the fretboard like nobody's business, something he usually doesn't do too much in his solos, but like you literally hear it. He's way up high, and then he gets real low, and then he goes way up high again. He's literally up and down the fretboard. He is treating that whammy bar like it's his bitch. And I mean, if you're going to have a whammy bar, use it. But nobody can do it like he can. You mentioned, Eric, the time frame of this and the bands that were around. A lot of great guitar players in a lot of those bands of the late 80s, the mid to late 80s. None of them, any of their guitar solos, they all fail in comparison. Right. Just to this one alone, I'll go ahead and say it. Just to this one alone, and that's just one of many solos that Eddie Van Halen blessed our ears with. And what else do you want me to say about it? Because there's not much else I can.
Even he couldn't explain, so people would say, where does it come from? He's like, I don't know, man.
You just got to feel it.
Comes from up above, right?
Yeah.
You talk about a lot of hard work. Yeah. You talk about guys like Yngwie and Schenecker and all those guys around that same era that just amazing guitar players.
Yeah.
But wow. That's
what would drive me nuts when every now and then somebody would lump Van Halen or Eddie in with hair bands or, I'm not into those bands that play a million, or the guitarists that just play a million notes. You're not listening then, because he's not doing that. Yeah. And you literally like that solo right there at the end, he's going super fast, but he doesn't even have to play. He plays with taste, and he's with feel. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like it's just the first take and that's it, but whatever it is.
We mentioned it a lot on the show. Eddie is really good about playing a solo that fits the song, not just playing a solo just to do it. Otherwise, that's just masturbation at that point. Yep. Yeah. But he is now, the perfect balance is to do both. You want to just like, if you're playing a solo by definition of what it is, it's like you're masturbatory. But if you can do it and do it in a way that fits the song and flows and doesn't take away like anything from the vibe you're trying to bring with the whole ensemble, then that's perfection. Eddie is great at doing that. Even if you don't think the song itself is that great, he's going to bust out a solo that's going to change your mind. And I know this because he's done it for me on this show before. I've been lukewarm on a couple of different songs. The solos have saved it. Yeah. So
he elevates the song.
Yep.
Sometimes solos can't save it if the song's really not my jam, but whatever, hearsay. Yeah. But he's really good about just blending it and making it fit where it needs to fit, making it sound the way a solo for this particular song needs to sound, while at the same time, I'm going to have fun with it because I'm Eddie Van Halen. Why wouldn't I? Yeah.
And I loved Eric's comment. I loved his comment about it sounds like he just walks in, does it one take and leaves. And it brought me right back to Spanish Fly from Van Halen 2, right? Because it just sounds like he just walked in with an acoustic, plugged it in, played it, and then left.
Ugh,
and every solo he does sounds like that. And that is just the sign of perfection, isn't it? Like,
he's a master of his work, man. It's just there's so few guitar players that are actually like that. You can be like, and no disrespect to Yngwie Malmsteen, but he's a completely different kind of guitar player, man. Like he's going for the I'm going to play Beethoven Sonata's Ninth Symphony on guitar, and you're going to hear every piece of it. I was like, okay, but are you actually feeling it, or are you just
Yeah, I mean, it would Satriani. We talk about Satriani being part of this tribute. I think he's certainly a legit guy that could pay the proper respect to Eddie if this were to happen. Like the stuff he did with Sammy on Chickenfoot.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, but there's a guy like Satriani is he plays with feel, but he's also the Yngwie type mindset. Like,
he can give you 1.5 million notes if you want, and he will. But he understands feel other than like just straight mechanical technique. Like he just there's a healthy balance. So many guitar players in today's metal, I would say, don't understand that balance because all the rage is how many notes can you play, and it's like that's boring. This is like I appreciate your work. You obviously worked really hard to play all these notes, but it's dull to me.
Right. Satriani, he's got a new album out. I got to listen to it, but I love Surfing with the Alien and Flying in a Blue Dream. And The Extremist is from the early 90s. He's got a song called Summer Song on there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He had David Lee Roth's drummer, Greg Bissonette, on that album, if not more.
Yeah.
I love Satriani.
But it brings me back to Greg Runoff's book, Van Halen Rising. And a guy like George Lynch, who would watch Eddie Van Halen, a young Eddie Van Halen, and think, God, I got to keep practicing and trying to capture that. And I don't know if you can. Like, it's not about technical mastery, because Joe Satriani is arguably technically one of the greatest guitar players around, right? Like that. He can't bring what Eddie Van Halen brought in terms of enthusiasm or feel or anything like that.
Lynch tries, but you're right. He is one of the better guitar players that's still out there right now. But he's, as far as bringing the sort of Van Halenness out, he tries, but it's just not quite there because he's not Eddie. Like, nobody's Eddie.
I love the story with Chris Holmes from Wasp. It was a story about Eddie gave him back a guitar. Did Chris lend a guitar to Eddie, and then Eddie took it apart, and and Chris Holmes gets the thing back, and it's just all pulled apart in different pieces and stuff. Yeah, like a mad scientist.
Yeah. I think he told Phil Collen from Def Leppard the same thing. Like, get your guitar and take it apart and kind of rebuild it and kind of build your own thing. And I always thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I love this. The Steinberger is cool, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You see that on the Live Without a Net video.
All right, let's keep going.
Let's keep going.
Shake a little
harmonies.
Yep.
Yep.
Of course, Sammy gets the worm.
Naturally, right?
Worm. I love the little things that Eddie does too, like the in between the riffs.
Yeah.
Little things, you know. Yeah.
And then that big crash cymbal from Alex, right?
Yep.
That big pronounced. I love that.
Oh yeah.
On the beach,
Again.
you know I wanna make love in the sea. Woo! Go try a little dance to Cabo Wabo. It's all right by me. Let me take you down. I will show you all. Down in Cabo, let me take you down. Face down in Cabo, kissing the ground.
Eric, have
This-
you ever tried Sammy's tequila?
No, and I've seen it when I've been at bars. I've seen it, and I don't believe I've ever tried it. I'm sorry, Sammy. I'll make
It's
it up to
very
you.
tasty.
Is it good?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm a beer guy.
Me too, but I'm thinking back to when Kelsey was on the show, barely old enough to drink, and she bought a bottle of Cabo Wabo tequila and has it sitting on her shelf. Never cracked it, never
Yeah.
gonna drink it, just sitting on her shelf.
That's cool.
Big
By the
shout
way-
out to Kelsey, but I was like, in my brain, I was going, that is such a crime. What a waste. It's just sitting there.
Just sitting there.
Yeah.
This is a great story. I got to tell you, when I got to meet Dave in New York City, 2003. He played the Beacon Theater in New York City, and a friend of mine, we went. It was September of 03, and we went. And my friend is friends with Dave's sister. I want to say is Allison. So we get backstage because of her. Like he's on the phone. My friend's on the phone with Dave's sister. She says, "Put the phone up to one of the guards, bodyguards, or whatever, or security guards." Yeah, he does that. The security guard's like, okay, guys, come on in. And we walk through the tunnels downstairs. You know, the Beacon Theater is an old venue. It's really cool, and we walk back there, and I looking around. Where's Dave? Where's Dave? I can't see. And I hear him the laugh. Dave laugh. And he's just off to my right. And I turn over and there he is. And he's got a bottle of Jack. So he's talking it up with Jack White Stripes.
Right.
And he's talking up with him. And Dave's bodyguard is lighting up Dave's cigarettes one after the other. And he's telling stories. So Dave walks away and he has like a half empty bottle of Jack and he puts it on the railing. And when he walks away, my friend, he grabs it. And to this day, he still has.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he still has it. He still has it. And it was funny because Dave was hitting on my friend's girlfriend. He literally like she put her hand on the railing just to say, hey, Dave, my boyfriend knows your sister, you know? And Dave took his pinky and locked it with her pinky. So she was like stuck. And he's like, hey, baby, what are you doing the whole Dave thing. Oh, it's so hilarious.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So
I love him.
but we haven't talked about Sammy's vocals. That's one thing we haven't addressed on here. And I've said this before, and I think I told this on the Sean Geek podcast. I can listen to him sing the phone book.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
just his voice is just so cool. So cool.
And to this day, still, like he can still belt him.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, he just said recently that just now, and he's 70, he's born in 47. So he's what, 74? Oh my God, my math. Yeah, whatever. 73, 74.
God.
And he said, just now I'm starting to, he goes, I'm going to a vocal coach just to kind of, get a little bit of help, so between shows, this and the other. He goes, but I never had to do anything, never did anything special, never took any magic potion or did this or that before a show, whatever. He said, in fact, back in the day, he would do things that were bad for your voice and people say, what are you doing? But never affected it. But that's it. Just a little bit now. It's a little, you got to take a little extra care. That's it. It's insane.
Some people just some people are just good like that. Like famously, Ronnie James Dio never warmed up at all. Apparently, like people would ask him, like, "What do you do to warm up?" He's like, "If you have to warm up, you don't have it." And it's like, okay, Ronnie. But
what a voice he had, man.
Exactly. So I mean, speaking as a vocalist, I can say, no, I like to warm up. Warming up helps. It's nice to do that.
Well, he does say, Sammy, though, the key is to keep singing, don't stop, because it's a muscle.
Mhm.
And so he's always singing, whether it's live in concert or just in the studio or at home. But
Yep.
Now, during 5150, didn't Mick Jones work with him a little bit on Dreams, songs like that,
Yep.
where he was kind of hitting that upper register?
Oh, yeah. He produced 5150 and he pushed Sammy. Even Sammy didn't think he can get as high as he did on Dreams. And they were walking along the beach, Sammy said, and he says, you can do it, man. You can do it. Sammy's like, I don't know. You can do it. He went in there and belted it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite Sammy vocals of all time is on Dreams.
Oh, it's so good.
Yep. And I love Dave's voice too. I get into this whole battle of, who's better, this and that. To me, they're just, I love them both. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry, Dave OnlyFans and Sammy OnlyFans. I love both of them. And, one thing that's interesting is they both, and I said this on the Strong Geek podcast, they just both Dave and Sammy, they have a great attitude about life, the lyrics, and it just, reach for the stars, man, get the most out of life, make each day matter. So, but in their own way, they have their own styles. They're just different, but Dave had that little more of that attitude,
Yeah.
that nasty attitude. And, whereas Sammy's a little more of like the hippie type,
Of course.
Sammy sings about blue balls and being face down in Cabo.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
This is very,
and, Dave sings about being the ice cream man.
That's right.
That's right.
Things like that.
That's
But
right.
what do you say we power through the rest of the song, man?
Yes. And Gary's a great vocalist too. I'm going to sneak that out.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Love you, Gary.
100%. 100%.
It's true.
That whole guitar part at the end is so cool. It's different from the rest.
Yeah, Eddie's not showing out in the little outro there. He's just, noodling away, just sort of giving you the ornamentation. He's not going out of his way to give you like, oh, look, it's a second solo. Here I go again, or like something, or they're not doing like one of the arena rock endings where it's just ring out or anything like that. Nope, just fade into the distance, fade into the Cabo Wabo ethereal, whatever.
That's what it almost sounds like. Yeah, they're walking off into the the sun's setting, long night of partying. It's time to just call a night.
Yeah.
What's cool is you hear Alex there, like he's mixing it up a little bit too. He's like,
yeah,
he's just mixing it up, doing his own thing.
And Mike's coming in there too with a little bit of more.
Oh yeah,
they're eating up the bass line there a little bit. Yeah,
it's got all of that, all the ingredients of that same era magic. Not released as a single.
No, but was still pretty prominent, I would say. Maybe the tequila had something to do with it, or just maybe the essence of Sammy's time with the band. Just, Cabo Wabo. Cabo Wabo feels like it was a catchphrase of his, maybe. And I don't know this. Eric, you're the expert. Was Cabo Wabo a catchphrase with Sammy, like just out and about?
No, I don't know if it's a catchphrase. I mean, I think, but I mean, it ended up being, unfortunately, like a point of contention between him and the rest of the guys, because the business side of things got turned sour, because they all had a piece in the business, and it wasn't going anywhere. And so Sammy basically said, let me buy it out from the rest of you guys and I'll take it from here. And then the business took off. And so that caused some problems. In fact, when they had the 02 or the 04 tour with Sammy returning, Sammy had the Cabo Wabo tattoo on his arm.
Yeah.
And Eddie was just like, you're not here to promote anything. You know, you're here to play music. And Sammy had the tattoo, like, on his, he has it on, like, I think it's his right shoulder. And Eddie would walk up to him and pull the sleeve down, and then Sammy would roll it back up, That was unfortunately, which is a bummer because it's such a great song, and they were having such a blast. There's an MTV special when they opened the club in 88 or 89, and they're all just having a great time together, jamming, just having fun, But things kind of turned sour. So, but no, I don't think it was like a key. I don't think it was like a catchphrase of Sammy's. I don't know how often he plays it solo. We could look at his set list to see, but
well, I know, and famously, it's actually on live right here, right now. They actually sandwich it with "You Really Got Me Now,"
right? Yeah,
live album, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, back in '93, they were still playing it.
Well, Cabo Wabo is most certainly it's a fantastic beverage, I can confirm. But the song itself, that's something we have to determine. You've heard us sort of comment throughout. This is if you're stuck with us for this long. But what I'm here to ask is the age-old question that we've been doing on the show, and I'm going to throw it to Eric first because you're the guest, and that's just how it goes. Is Cabo Wabo contention and like behind the scenes things aside, though, the song Cabo Wabo, is it What Dreams Are Made Of, or is the dream over for you with Cabo Wabo?
There's no suspense here. Anybody that's been listening up to this point, they know. They know. Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
There it is. And Corey, now, do you share the same sentiment, or will you be just trailing off into the sunset alone?
Geez, I don't know. David and I agree. This is what dreams are made of. Absolutely. I love Cabo Wabo. What a fantastic song. And I'm so glad that Eric manifested it here this evening because
I manifested that, baby. Take that, Cult of Mariano.
Yes.
That's and right. You know what? After last week, a very nice palate cleanser, right? We got something really cool off what you went to. A great.
I'm gonna listen in defense of that song. Okay, I love the music that Eddie wrote on "How Many Say I." I love the music. So there you go. And you know what? I interviewed Martin Popoff, the great Canadian writer.
Yes.
Corey, you know him.
Yeah.
He said Eddie has a sweet voice. He likes Eddie's voice. So there you go.
I like it too. Maybe not so much as a lead, but and we talked about his voice lockstep with Michael Anthony's is, that's the sound of Van Halen, right? He's got a tremendous voice.
Leave it to the guy from the Halen News Desk to put a nice positive spin on How Many Say I.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, we got one more vote to go, and Mark usually likes to rain on everybody's parade. And downvote a song. What's it going to be tonight, Mr. Kamayer?
It's raining tequila. As I've already said, this the solo itself easily top 3 of all of Eddie Van Halen's works in that we've heard recorded. Because I mean, if you don't take my word for it, go back after this episode is done, re-listen to the song and just analyze it for yourself. Okay, that solo is incredible. But solo aside, the song is just fun. And that's one of the things we love about Van Halen is that they're not afraid to give you like a hard rockin' tune that will speak to you in a certain way. They're not above giving you a power ballad to make you feel all the feels. But then at the end of the day and at their core, they're just a band that wants to have fun, play rock music. Rock music is fun. So you got to have a song that's going to amplify that. It's going to, demonstrate that. I think Cabo Wabo is one of many perfect examples of Van Halen having fun. The music shows, and it just that's what more can you ask for with a Van Halen tune? Am I right? So that's a resounding.
Yeah, Diamond Dave.
Correct. Correct.
Look at Diamond Dave is actually excited for a Sammy era song. My God.
Even Dave knows. Even Dave.
Hey, real quick, because you guys, I'm keeping you. You guys, when you have me talk about Van Halen, I can't stop. when I was working in radio in 2003, when the Sam and Dave tour was coming through Connecticut, my program director comes to me and says, "Hey man, you ready for this?" I said, "What's going on?" "You get to interview Sammy." "Yes." Right? He says, "So it's going to be tomorrow. Get ready." He's going to call in. So I come in the next day, and my program director walks into the studio and goes, "Sorry, dude, Sammy's not doing it." And I thought he was busting my balls. I thought he was just fucking with me. So I laughed. He goes, "No, I'm serious." I go, "Are you fucking kidding me? What's going on?" He said, "Sammy's tired of doing all the interviews. Dave doesn't do any. And so to stick it to Dave, he's not going to do an interview."
Oh, man.
I said, "Are you kidding me?" So I never got to interview Sammy on that.
Oh, no.
He was those two guys by the end of that, because that was like towards the tail end there.
Yeah.
By the time it was in August, I think, maybe September, right? No, August. Boy, yeah, they could not. They, like Sammy said, oil and water. Yeah.
Water.
He just says, "No, screw him. He's not doing any interviews. I'm not doing any interviews." So it never happened.
Didn't they have to build a false wall?
By the way, I had my like Cabo Wabo type Hawaiian shirt on.
You were ready. You were like so prepared.
You're like a jackass. So Sammy, you owe me an interview. I want to talk to you one day.
Didn't it get so bad they had to build a false wall in the arena so that Sammy and Dave would never come in contact with each other?
I remember, but I know Michael Anthony would bang on Dave's door. Like, "Come on, Dave, you're coming out." Dave never came out.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, because Sammy wanted him to come out and jam with him or get on stage and play with him. Yeah. That's just like so funny, man. Those two guys, they are just, from day one, it was just, there was that competition between the two. So, it is what it is. But again, I'm going to say, sorry, Dave OnlyFans and Sammy OnlyFans. I love both of them. Love Sammy, love Dave.
Yep.
Gotta love them both.
Anything
Both
with Eddie on it, I
yeah.
love.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's not just about the front men and their drama with one another or with whatever. It's about the band itself, and that's why we do this, because we love the band itself. Doesn't matter who's singing for them. It's just what we do, and that.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, exactly. That wraps up the show. But before we go, Eric, you have been such an amazing guest. Why don't you well, first of all, thank you for being our guest, and thank you for finally bringing, I guess, credibility to our
trust me, you're gonna get
rants.
the emails. You're gonna get them. Eric fucked up.
I'm sure, but they'll be
Call
too
yourself
busy.
a fan. You're not a fan. You don't know what kind of mic Dave used during the fair warning session. No, I don't.
Even to those guys, I love you. You can hate on me, but I love you guys because you're Van Halen fans, and that's all that matters, man.
Exactly.
That's what matters. But Eric,
yeah. So we're talking what, free plugs time? Is this I get to do some plugging?
All right.
I would love for you.
Yeah, I got to talk about Booked on Rock a little bit, because your interview with Paul Brannigan, author of Unchained, the Eddie Van Halen story, I got to say, not only my favorite rock podcast of all time, one of my favorite interviews, period.
Oh, cool.
That is an amazing show.
Well, I'll just say this. It has nothing to do with me. It's the guests. Trust, these guys are so good as guests. They're smart. They know what they're talking about. They've done their research, and they've got the great stories to tell. So it's been going great, man. I'm coming up on 1 year. I think my 1 year anniversary coming up almost at the end of this month, I think. And it's just been going great. Bookedonrock.com. You could go to the website, and I have all the major platforms where you can listen, but it's all over: Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, but you go to bookedonrock.com, it's right there. And it's been, I actually interviewed, Paul, I interviewed Chris Gill and Brad Talinsky on their book on Eddie. And I also had another interview. I did Michael Christopher, who wrote a book on Van Halen as well. So I interviewed him. So check those out, but there's just so much. I think I'm up to closing in on 60 episodes now, I want to say, maybe more. And I just put up one this week with Jean Beauvoir, who was in the Plasmatics. And he also was a producer, and he worked with Paul Stanley. He wrote songs with Kiss in the 80s. He worked with Steven Van Zandt, and he's got some insane stories. His uncle was a voodoo guy, I guess, a voodoo priest, Max Beauvoir. He inspired the movie Serpent in the Rainbow with Wes Craven's movie.
Right?
I'm just actually, before I joined you guys, I was editing the episode that goes up next week, which is Elliot Landy, who took photographs of Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix. He was at Woodstock. This book is on Janis Joplin, a fascinating interview with him. It just, the guests are so cool. And I've got interviews booked through like the middle of June. So it's just been a blast. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. But again, man, I just ask the questions and read the books, or I read the books, then ask the questions. and it's just a blast. So, but also, of course, the Van Halen News Desk, vhnd.com. And we just put up something. Sammy's got a new album that's coming out soon. And of course, we had that story where we got the quote from Dave, the exclusive quote from Diamond Dave regarding the rumored celebration tour. So we'll keep people in the know as much as we can, you know. And VanHalenStore.com, which is where Corey got that impressive shirt. And I'm wearing the EVH hat, and I'm wearing the Van Halen shirt, all from the Van Halen store. So check that out, VanHalenStore.com. And a shout out to my man, Jeff Hausman at the Van Halen News Desk. And I think that's it. I can't plug anything else. and Corey, I'm going to let you guys have a great network, the Deep Dive Podcast Network.
That's right. Tremendous network, the Deep Dive Podcast Network. You can get shows, Uriah Heep, Deep Purple, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Sabbath, Ozzy, Hawkbinge, all the way down the list. Check us out, deepdivepodcastnetwork.com. Follow us on Twitter. There's an Aerosmith show on there too that I'm affiliated with one John Mariano.
Yes, sir. I listened to the episode just today on Rats in the Cellar.
Yes, great song. I tell you, we're well ahead in recording right now. So right now we're past show 18. So we're actually kicking songs off the mixtape and you know having the argument about what's going to go on this mixtape and what isn't. So past the show 18, things get really interesting. So hopefully people will stick with us on that one.
You know what came up on my phone the other day? Street Jesus from
Nice. Music from another dimension.
Yeah. I thought, man, if there's anything that's close to the old school Aerosmith, that was that song. But that album just didn't do as well as they'd hoped.
It really did, but there's still some good old school Aerosmith. Like Street Jesus is a great Joe Perry jam on the album. So absolutely. But Eric, I'd be remiss before we let you go tonight. Last week was How Many Say I? And we didn't so much care for it. We put a poll out to all of our listeners. It's currently 70% the dream is over, 22% what dreams are made of. What would your vote have been on How Many Say I?
Oh, you got to do this to me. See, yep. I thought I dodged the bullet.
Nope, I got to know.
Okay. Oh, boy. So I got it. It's either thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yep.
There's no like in between.
Nope, sorry.
Sideway thumb.
Sideway thumb.
All right. You know what? God, I hate to do this. Oh, I'm sorry, Eddie, wherever you are. I gotta say it thumbs down.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that was the vote we were.
You know what? If it was just an instrumental, maybe I think I would. You know, but I'm glad he did it. It's what Eddie. Gary is the one who said. You guys talked about it. Gary said, "Do the vocals."
Yep.
And I'm glad he did it. Screw it. It's what he wanted to do. He's an artist.
Yep.
And it doesn't tarnish the legacy in any way. It's just something that he wanted to do. That whole album was something he wanted to do. And the thing that's you have to remember on that Van Halen 3 album, and there are some songs I enjoy on that, and I can listen to the whole thing really, because anything Eddie is on, I love, but you're not getting the Michael harmonies.
Mm-hmm.
And according to Chris Gill, Alex is not playing drums on all those tracks.
Really? That I didn't know.
And I asked him which ones. He goes, I don't know. But if you listen, you might be able to pick up on it. I mean, I have my guesses, but I guess, you know, people can listen and come to their own conclusion on that. And, you know, Eddie's playing bass on that album. So, you're missing a lot of that chemistry, and lyrically it's not what people were expecting. And you're also talking about 1998 was a different time. We're in that post grunge era, and so I don't know even if they made an album that was the classic quote unquote sound, how well it would have done. But I think Without You is a great tune, and again, I'm glad Eddie did it, and I think it was just something he wanted to do.
Yep,
he did it.
Without You's a great tune. Fire in the Hole is a great tune. I was always partial to What I Want. I'm looking forward to geting more Van Halen 3 on the show. We've only done 2 tracks. Unfortunately, we downvoted both, but there is some really good stuff on Van Halen.
Every band has that one album that didn't do so well. I guess there's maybe a few exceptions here and there, but my God, look at the body of work there.
Exactly. And hey, there it is. There's another vote for thumbs down. So suck it,
Sorry.
Cult of Mariano.
I know.
Cult of Mariano. You're not going to win. And of course, you guys, you can find us at Podcast Will Rock on Twitter. Be sure to go to our website and thepodcastwillrock.com. Check out our merch. We got merch, and it's getting hot out there. Get you a Van Halen tank, and show it off. Tell your friends, like and subscribe. Help us grow, because we're not the only ones who are fans of Van Halen out there. Like, there are plenty of people out in the world. The world needs to know, and the world needs to hear what we have to offer, even if we're not experts. But we had an expert here tonight, so there you take that for what it's worth.
You guys are fans. That's all that matters.
Yeah. You can find me at Mark the Bat on Twitter and Instagram, and yell at me about all the things I said wrong, and that's fine, because I thrive on it. It's great. But more than that, we thrive on talking about Van Halen. That's why we're here. On behalf of Eric and Corey and myself, thank you for joining us. This has been another installment of And the Podcast Will Rock, and we will rock you later. Oh, God!